Because I'm assuming that if you homeschool, then you get that 6,000 back. Is that correct? Because you're homeschooling, so.
After, you know, after you.
After you've already raised your children, if you start any new ones, then you might get your money back. Okay, but it
Well,
said.
if the child is going into a private school or homeschool at first grade.
At kindergarten, first grade. Right. So I get that. But it said that you don't have to live by any new rules or whatever you say that were passed after January 1st, 2015. Well, there's a whole slew of rules before January 1st of 2015. So are those private schools and homeschools going to have to abide by all of those rules that were passed before January 1st of 2015? Because you can see this is what, you know, right now, a lot of it, I've talked to homeschoolers, and we do have a homeschool parent here. Their concern is they don't want anyone telling them what they teach their children. And so, you know, we already know that they're teaching evolution in the public schools. Well, homeschool parents on the whole are Christian and don't believe in evolution. Sure. And so they don't want government telling them what they have to teach. And so, if you're going to have to abide by the laws before January 1st of 2015, why would private schools or homeschoolers want to even participate?
Sure. I've got an answer to that.
It says here may not be required to apply. I don't think they're going to be required to apply to anything that was passed before January 15th, only to the new rules that are coming.
Okay, so which one is it?
The stuff that's already been passed, or there's stuff that is already being implemented in public school right now.
Okay, they have to live by it, or they have to live by what's after January 1st, 2015? Which, I mean, that's what you read.
What I'm understanding from what it says here is that they're not going to be required to comply to the rules, however, before January 1st of 2015. For example, the tax test, I guess the STAR test, that private schools are not required to give children the STAR test as public schools are.
No, actually, what it says is that any new legislation is prohibited. It doesn't reach back into the past.
Right. That's what I understood from your presentation. Okay. And so does that answer your question, Terry? Because, I mean, I do, and Tori is a homeschool parent. I mean, how does this hit you?
I just want the freedom to teach the curriculum that I want to teach, and I don't want a lot of restrictions. I mean, I think go by guidelines, and I as a former teacher, as a former teacher myself, first grade for 9 years at TISD, and homeschool mom for 13. I just want to be able to teach what I want to teach my child as a homeschool parent, and not have restrictions, too many restrictions put on me, especially if I don't agree with them. And I'm Christian, and I like Christian values, and so therefore I wanted to teach a Christian curriculum. And I wanted that privilege to be able to do that and not have to. But then again, I also like the testing and all of that. I know that you have testing and all of that, credentials, but I don't want the government coming in and, you know, doing all kinds of things that I totally disagree with. You see what I'm saying? That's like trying to hit something back, so.
Okay. Yes?
Let's say that the parent is
get the microphone.
Because he wants to child to go to another school program. They're going to then transportation to how that fit in. Who's going to pay for that? They're going to want bus transportation where now they just pick them up in the district.
Use the mic.
Okay, so she's saying
Transportation will come in there, the parents are going to manage that probably, because they're not going to want to.
if they send their child to a school outside of their ISD, what if they demand transportation to the other ISD?
Right.
I was a teacher.
Right. I've heard all these concerns.
No, just a concern.
Yeah.
So,
I have an answer to that, and there should be a stipulation that,
I think there should be a stipulation that if you want your child to go to a specific school, you need to provide transportation. I mean, I don't think that the school district should have to, otherwise you're getting into some serious consequences. I mean, if we're talking money, that's a big deal. Well, to me, that makes sense. My biggest question, because you know as well as I do, that the state requires certain testing, and you don't get your diploma unless you pass those state tests. And so would those be required of private schools and homeschoolers as well, where they have to pass a government test in order to receive any kind of diploma for their work?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
I think the premise or focus of that bill is all wrong, because it focuses on the state saving money, and not the quality of the education of the children. And that's where the focus should be. It wouldn't even be an issue if public schools were given the same kind of quality education that they should be getting. So, I mean, I think school choice is a good idea. I just don't like the language of that, because yes, the state, and I understand we want to stay fiscally responsible, but we also owe our children the best education we can give them.
Sure. Okay.
Get people to use the mic.
Who's going to oversee to what standard will those schools that are privately held to? We just recently seen a private school go belly up in a major metropolitan area. Those parents were duped into believing their kids were going to a certain level of education. It took 2 years to finally kill the snake. What guarantee when you get your voucher, if you send them to a Brooklyn recently if you send them to some small school that has only 100 students, there's 100 students bringing a $6,000 voucher. What standard, what guarantee does the state demand of those people that halfway through the school year, you won't end up with 100 kids that have lost half a year of school? What then?
I'd like to be able to answer the questions.
Well, to me,
The various
policy is fraught with danger. You pass money from government to private hands, and there's too many places there. We have enough fraud within our own government. You create another entity that's going to handle this money, that's public money, and here we are again. And the unfortunate thing in Dallas was the fortunate thing, the only people that lost outside of the children lost a year of school. Most parents lost their money.
I think you're talking about a charter school.
I don't care what kind of school, a private school is established.
That's not a private school. A charter school is not a private school, it's a public school.
Yeah, what was the name of that place? It was the one that was sponsored by the little nine football player.
Margaret, did you have a question?
I'd like to answer some of these questions before you have to leave.
Isn't the whole point of school choice that the parents will have the moxie to send their children to the schools that are performing better and not the underperforming
I agree with
ones?
parents' choice, but we probably got half the parents, or more than half the parents making bad decisions today. That's why you're going to so darn many kids stuck in some CPS program out of home, substandard, whatever reason.
Okay, we're going to let Dr. Schoolfield answer some of the questions that have been asked.
All this kind of talk has been going on for many years. I've heard it all. I've been doing this thing for 25 years. Okay. Let me give you some answers. Why would you want a voucher program instead of a tuition tax credit? Okay, tuition tax credits are safer and cleaner than vouchers. a tuition tax credit, the money is never in a government bank account. So, First Amendment does not apply. First Amendment issues do not apply. That's a tuition tax credit. Okay, what's the problem with tuition tax credit? And that is that it starts very, very slow. Okay, starts slow. Now that doesn't mean that you have to decide between, either or. You can have both and. You can have a voucher system and a tuition tax credit. But the concern, from the perspective of those that are concerned about this in the legislature, one is that we're not going to get it passed until we give some of these legislators an excuse to pass it based on the budget of the state. Okay? The other thing is that this is only saying that a parent gets $6,000. It doesn't say anything about any other rules. Just $6,000 in your pocket, you go take care of yourself. One of the difficulties in what all you're talking about is that we're dealing with two different economic situations. Okay? In the private sector, the relationship between the parent, the child, and the school is a mutually voluntary contract, right? Mutually voluntary contract in the private sector, okay? Which is what we want, and that's great. Okay, but on the other side, on the public school side, what we have is a system where mandates from the state, from Austin, come down on the public schools, and the kids go, the parents let their kids go, and it's an entitlement system, okay? The child is entitled to anything they want, whatever, whether I've got this or that, or, and so it creates a situation where the public school has to do everything. In a private school situation, schools can specialize in different areas. Like if you have an autistic kid, you can have a private school that specializes in those kids. And when they specialize in that system, like Adam Smith said, they can do a better job. So, but okay, right now there's no perfect solution, and the reason is because we got a public school that is so messed up, it's going to take a while to fix it. Okay? Now, with regard to the legislators, the bad guys, trying to put restrictions on private schools. Right now, even if we don't pass this, there are a bunch of private school laws in there that are trying to think up ways to restrict private schools. That kind of stuff is going on right now, regardless of whether you get $6,000 or not. Okay? Now, but the benefit of having money so the parent can get outside the system is now you have another private school parent that can defend the system. The more parents that get out of the system where they have no control and get in a situation where they do have control, you've got more warriors to defend the wall. Okay? You don't have any, right now, if you add all the kids in some private school plus the homeschoolers, that makes about 8% of the kids in Texas, okay? You're going up 92% versus 8%. In the long run, you're going to lose that battle. But if you can get a bunch of kids that are imprisoned in the public school right now, get them out, maybe it'll turn out to be 16%, or maybe 20%. You know, if you can just double it to 16%, you've got many more parents committed to protecting the private schools. Okay, you have to look at the. Okay, now you can have a tax credit system too, but the motive for this is not to protect the, all of you with, you got strong families, and you got money and so forth like that. This bill is to free the low-income kids in the inner city of all these large cities. Those parents have absolutely no choice. They can't afford a private school. They can't afford to move in a different school district. They are completely trapped. And I'm here to challenge you that, it may be uncomfortable for you, but don't you care about 92% of the kids that are trapped in these schools that don't teach them? Isn't that a big enough issue to take a little bit of risk? A little bit of risk. It's kind of, I have to say this, I'm sorry, but, on the road to Jericho, you got the wounded guy, that's the little private, the little poor parent with their child in public school. Oh, well, he might affect the private schools. He might, affect our homeschooling or something like that. But it's the Good Samaritan that comes along and says, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about this kid. The godly thing to do is to take care of the poor. When that guy, went to help the Samaritan, it could have been a trap. There might be somebody behind a tree that came and got him. Okay? It takes risk to help people. And my challenge to you is, you don't live in a risk-free world, but you do live in a world of tremendous need. Tremendous need. 50% of the black kids that drop out of public school high schools within 5 years are in the penitentiary. Do you want to just sit back and watch that happen? I'm sorry, but I'm a preacher on this. What this is about is getting as many of those poor kids out of a school that's just failing them, okay? That's what this is about. This isn't about protecting your home school. This isn't about protecting your private school. This is about changing our society by getting those kids that are failing out of a situation where they might be a contribution to society. If we don't fix that, okay? Ferguson. What's up there? Well, all those kids are rioting. Why? Because they don't have a job. They don't have enough education to get a job. So what do? They riot and they, sell drugs and all this stuff. But if you actually taught them a skill where they can earn a living and afford to have a wife and a family, what's that worth? What's that worth? I tell you, if you don't fix that, okay, right now, they do these international tests. You know who's ahead of us on those international tests? Poland and Slovenia are ahead of the United States. Why? Because you've got all these kids trapped in these private schools that are not learning anything.
Public schools, trapped in public schools.
So I'm very passionate about this. Very passionate. And I care about homeschooling. I was a homeschooler. I care about the private schools. I was in a private, I had my kids in a private school. This is not about any of that. This is about a much bigger problem than that. We're talking about changing our society. That's what this is about. And I'm sorry if I made you mad, but I've been working on this 25 years. And if y'all can't help get some of those kids out of private school, public school, I'm sorry, then personally, I'm going to challenge, I'm embarrassed for you. I'm embarrassed that you don't care about the poor. And you can be mad, and that's my answer to all these, what I would consider petty problems. Petty problems. When you look at thousands of kids that have no hope. Okay?
All of the people that voted against the bill before, that you call them the bad guys, what
Yeah.
are their reasons?
I don't care. I don't care what their reasons were. What does that mean?
I mean, is it because of money? Is it because they don't want to fly? They want to go?
Well, I mean, usually in East Texas, it's, oh, we gotta protect the private school. Oh, we gotta protect the homeschoolers. Okay, y'all can have your little castle over here and protect them, while the rest of society is drowning.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I respect very much that you are very passionate about this. And
That's all right.
I would like to tell you a little bit on the point of view of a parent. I have children that are currently in school. Of course, I'm younger than you, I have less experience, but what I can tell you is I've listened to what you're saying. And here, I'm not talking East Texas, but I believe that the majority of people need to understand that the education of our children falls on the parents. It's a parent responsibility as well, not just the school district or the private school. You do understand, one of the things that concerns me is there's about 33,000 kids that drop out of school every year in Texas. I do have a problem, and a lot of these children drop out of school because their parents don't want to get up out of bed in the morning, and they're rather pull them out of school and tell the school district they're homeschooling so they can stay at home. They really don't care about their children's education. I do have a problem in giving them the choice of a $6,000 credit for just pulling their children out of their school. That's one of the
Okay.
things. So it is not
There's
that we
no
don't
perfect
care. There is no perfect answer, but we need to remember that it is the responsibility of the parents as well, that the children do go to school and they do follow the rules. The problem I personally have with the public school education is that God is not present. That's the problem I have.
I have that.
They're not charging private school and the poster and the charter
Sure.
schools.
Oh.
I want Betty to have a chance to say something. She's
Oh,
been a public school
okay,
teacher.
here's the deal. First of all, you can't change the parent. Can't change the parent. But what you can do is by giving them a choice. What if you have to, why do you go on an airplane and they have lasagna or chicken? Why don't they just have chicken?
I don't have anything anymore.
The reason why is you feel empowered by choosing between lasagna and chicken. If you give these parents who are hopeless a choice, let's say between two private schools, okay? Well, let's see. I need to decide where I'm going to invest my child. Where am I going to invest my child? That is a big investment. If I decide to put it in private school A, that means I'm going to get off my duff and make sure that the decision that I make is successful. The reason why these parents are not involved is because they have no power. Why go to the school and go to a meeting when you know that you are powerless?
What happens if we pull all of those children out of the school district? Let's talk about TIC, which is our local school district. Okay, there are how many students? 17? Some thousand students?
They're not coming out.
Okay, let's say we're pulling out a third of those students and we're gonna flush
It's
them
not
into
gonna
the
happen.
private school.
That will not happen.
That's what I'm understanding. We're not gonna fill those jobs of those students
vouchers is not going to create a crisis across the nation, okay? Why? Because there's not enough capacity in the private school sector to take these kids. You know, maybe there's 20% capacity right now. So only, 20% of what they had, so you're talking about maybe 1%, half a percent. There's not enough seats out there in the private school to take half of the kids. So it's going to move slowly. It will move slowly. Because the private schools don't have capacity.
Well, and private schools often have a standard by which you have to test in order to get in. So,
That's also.
I don't know.
The bottom line is, regardless of what, is that there's just not the capacity out there. It will take 10 years for the private sector to have the capacity to handle a significant amount. But let me also say that, remember when AT&T was a monopoly and you didn't even own your own phone, et cetera, et cetera? What happened when they broke up the monopoly? AT&T suddenly gets clean and mean. Oh, maybe that will happen to the public school system when they have real competition. The reason why they're lazy now is they don't have any competition. People are lazy, we're sinful, we're lazy. If it doesn't affect my life to sit on my butt all day and still get paid, I might do that. Okay?
Yeah, Betty.
I taught schools for 25 years.
Okay.
Betty, up close to 10. Can you hear me? Closer.
Kiss it.
I taught school for 25 years, the last 10 I really had. I agree with everything you're saying. We need a voucher system. We really do. I mean, these poor kids, I'm going to tell you a story, and I wouldn't have believed it had it not happened in my classroom. But one year I was told by the principal, we're going to give you some basic classes this year. Well, I had always taught accelerated honor students. And I thought, basic classes? No, I'm not special ed. And they went, no, this isn't special ed. These are just kids that need some help. And I thought, okay, and this was 9th and 10th grade English class. One teacher said, where do you get these kids? Said, first day, ask them how many can write the alphabet and spell the days of the week and the months of the year. I said, you have got to be kidding. They've been in school since the first grade. Do it, she said. I did it. Out of 35, how many in Waterloo High School do you think could do that and get it all right? Starting with A and go to Z, write the days of the week and the months of the year. Out of 35 9th and 10th graders, and these are not special ed kids. They're just kids that have been in a good classroom, and not all classes are good, and not all teachers are good.
That's right.
And so, how many? No, 2. Two. I took it to the principal, and I showed it to him, and he said, well, just do the best you can. Now, I was in junior high before 9th grade got promoted to high school. And I was told by a principal, you are failing too many students. And I went, but they're not passing the work. They got to get it before we can send them to the next grade. He said, but that makes the school look bad. I tell you, we need voucher systems, and if you look and see, you will find out that most teachers send their kids they can afford to private school. They know what's going on, and as taxpayers, you need to know what's going on. Listen to this man, he's got it right.
How many of y'all know when the TISD school board meeting is? Can anybody tell me when the TISD school board meeting is? When and where and what they're going to talk about?
I can't remember the day.
It's tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Jack Davidson Conference Center. The agenda is on a website called Homeland Owners Association. You can click on that and see what they're talking about. So if we're this interested in fixing schools, you got to show up.
Good point. True. Well, obviously a very interesting subject and one that I think we need to deal with. I know in 2007 I had a foreign exchange student And she went to Robert E. Lee High School, and they put her in on-level classes, is what they called it. And she did not have one day of homework. She wanted me to entertain her every single evening because there was nothing that she was assigned for school. And I said, Christina, don't you have a book to read, something for English? And she said, no, the teacher reads the book to us because a lot of the kids can't read for themselves. And she was a junior at Robert E. Lee. So, when I asked one of our school board members, okay, what's this deal? If they can't even read, what are you doing about it? And she said, oh, that girl should have been in the accelerated classes. If she had been in the accelerated classes, then she would have gotten an education. Then she would have had some things required of her. And I said, well, how many are in those accelerated classes? And she said, maybe 20%. I said, so what you're telling me is that more than 80 to more than 80% are not being educated in our public school system. And she didn't like that, but she couldn't argue with it because that's what she had just said. They are not being educated. More than 80, at least 80% are not getting an education in our public school system. And our workforce is paying for it. So, our school would thank you for being here and presenting this. And we do need to contact we know who our state rep is. And you know, obviously Matt Schaefer is a proponent of this, but we also need to know, what he feels about it, what he sees about it. And so contact Jack here in Tyler. And you can also call Austin. What, Molly? Yes, Senator Eltime needs to hear from all of us as well.
Matt voted for school choice last time, but it never, combination of the speaker and the lieutenant governor last session, it never crossed over for both houses to vote and get the school choice bills voted for on the floor. They kept them pigeonholed so it would die.
That's the lobbyist.
Just like happened here today. What about this? What about this? And they use that to divide and conquer. And in the big global picture, he's right. You've got to have a certain amount of money that's available so people can have a choice. And then they'll measure it for the next 2 years. What changed, what got better, what got worse, and then maybe we'll have a little bit more. So it's an incremental change. It's going to take time. And Bob is right as well. Independence is in every school district. And when have you heard somebody that wasn't an independent school district? So we've got to get together on a local basis and get independence back into the school district and not have so much being mandated by the TEA out of Boston. It's the same thing we argue about with the education at the national level. We've got two systems, two different sets of authorities. Who's going to make the proper choice? And it starts here at home.
Right.
Well, I think anything's getting better with competition.
Yes.
They shouldn't have a monopoly, that's all
Right.
there is to it. Now, what the details are and what that's going to mean is something that the legislators have to work out.
It's
We
tough.
definitely need competition in our public schools.
It's tough choices, and you've got to get something started and nurse it along or come up with other ideas.
We'll see what happens. Okay, you may have received your invitation this week. I just got mine